was a sight for my soul.
What's up? What's good? What is happening? Welcome to my Tuesday night vlog. I am the actual King Smith, and we back, baby, for another Tuesday night vlog. Currently, I'm streaming across multiple platforms. You can find me at YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, because your boy's out here multi-talented. This is supposed to be just the instrumental. What is my music thing doing over here? Let's get this right. Yeah, let's set the mood. So how's everybody doing out there tonight? Okay. If you're new to my channel, what I do on Tuesday night is I have a regular vlog in which I talk about whatever the funk I want to talk about. And tonight's topic or tonight's subject is going to be, what is your story? Okay. How do you tell your story? And who's listening? But before I do, a little bit of housekeeping. If you're checking this on YouTube or Facebook, hit that like button for your boy. Help me out on the algorithms. All right, that's the algorithm, which is what I like to call it. And I want to give an early shout out to the people that's popped in. We got Michelle early. She said, happy Tuesday. As you come in, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. I appreciate you for that. And Perry Productions said, done. Okay. And for those of y'all that don't know who he is, the boy is one of the baddest photographers and videographers that's out there. Okay. And if you need somebody to film your wedding, if you're taking a trip and you just want to make a fire TikTok or YouTube about your trip, hit him up. All right. You can find him on Facebook at, I want to say it's Perry Productions. That's his business page. You can schedule him there. All right. So what's your story? Okay. How often do we hear somebody tell a story, right? And really, when you think about it, people think and talk in stories all the time, and we barely realize it or barely kind of understand it, right? So for example, if you're late to your job, your boss might ask you, hey, King, why are you 2 hours late? And in my head, I'm trying to come up with some type of story so that I don't get fired. All right. Or, you know, what happened? When people tend to ask you that, you know, your answer typically comes back in the form of a story. All right. But when you think about it too, your life is a story. I was inspired on this topic by two people, actually. One is in the chat, Michelle Early. She is an author, an educator, a minister, a survivor. What you call those people that can approve that something was signed and they stamp it? I forget what it's called. When you're doing live stream, sometimes words escape you when you're being impromptu. But she has a story, okay? If you're watching this YouTube channel, you've got a story, or Facebook, wherever you watch it from. I got somebody that checks me out on Twitter as well, and I appreciate them. That's the word that escaped me, a notary, all right? That's part of her story. When you're asking about somebody from a friend, what do you typically ask about them? You know, if there's somebody that you're interested in talking to, you'll say, tell me a little bit about that person. And what do? They tell you a story. Okay. So Michelle Early has written books about her life and her survival story that you can go purchase on Amazon. All right. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can do this and not derail from my live stream too often. I'm going to go see if I can find her real quick, because you know what? I want to talk about the people that I know, the people who I am going to meet, right? That's out there in the world who has a story. And Michelle, you're lucky I can't find your book right now on YouTube. But look, she has one, and it's her telling her story. She also has a vlog. God happened to me, and in her vlog or her website, she talks about her story, her relationship with God, and everything like that. So for somebody that is a believer and want to go through somebody else's journey as they share their story, you have a way of going over there and checking it out and reading and hearing about her story. Okay, I don't know how well this book is going to show up right here, but trust me, I have a book right here. The person who wrote this book, Michael Allison, I know well. He's a veteran, and he wrote this book that just came out, Overcoming Adversity. I haven't read it yet, but looking at the foreword and the back, the title of his book is called Overcoming Adversity, Getting Your Life Back on Track. And in it, he talks about molestation, bullying, being arrested. I'm assuming him being arrested. PTSD, unemployment, divorce, blended families, injuries, child custody, and entrepreneurship. Okay. I feel as though I know Mike Allison pretty good, but some of these bullet points that's listed on this book, I haven't talked about with him personally, or he hasn't shared with me personally, but it's a part of his story, right? History. And some of the things like divorce, I knew about. PTSD, I knew about because I'm a veteran and I'm his friend. But some of the other things, I'm curious what's going to be in this book. And over the Christmas holidays, I'm going to check out his story. Okay. And Michelle made a comment. She said, even if you aren't a believer, my content is for you too. Yes. I'm going to put it right here. GodHappenedToMe.com, I believe. Boom. It's there. I don't know how it's going to come up, but that is her website where she shares her story. Okay. And part of what she shares is what I'm going to talk about and what makes up a story. Some of these people who are authors have published things about their life at certain points in time. But if you're still living, you still have a story to tell. Okay. And we got Spry Mars that's in the building and said, good evening, good looking. What up, Spry? Long time no see. Good to have you here checking in on Twitch over there. Yeah, Twitch is popping up and showing up for your boy. All right. I haven't done much gaming on my Twitch channel, but I'm going to get back to it. Okay. So when thinking about stories, there's typically 3 acts to a story and 5 elements to a story. Okay. And what are those elements? The protagonist is the first one. And it's typically who's the main point of the story or who the audience cares about. Now, in your life, you're typically the protagonist. Okay. I'm thinking about my life from my perspective. What a lot of people don't know is, after my divorce several years ago, I went through it. Okay. I was depressed, didn't know it. Okay. I knew how I felt, but I hadn't seen anybody about it. I didn't have, any way of identifying myself. I am depressed. And let me be the first to tell you, when you're depressed and you don't really know how to convey that, and you don't know where to go, you make, I'm not going to call them dumb decisions, but I'm going to say not so smart decisions. We are in a depressed mood. Some people call it a funk, whatever you want to call it. When you're in that life, you don't know that the decisions that you're making aren't necessarily the ones that are best for you. And I've talked about it on my channel previously, but if this is your first time hearing it, how did I get out of my depression? I went to a therapist. I talked to a doctor, and, they ask you those typical questions about, are you tired? Do you feel this way or whatever? And I decided not to lie and answer honestly. And I had a referral to mental health, And it was talking to a mental health person that I was able to kind of get out of that funk, get out of my depression, and turn things around. And I'm telling you, my life is 10 times, 100 times better for it. Okay. But in my story, I'm the protagonist for that. Okay. And in your life and your story, you are too. After understanding the protagonist, you'll have some type of catalyst, right? Something that makes the protagonist spring to action. Okay. Michael Allison, in his story, I'm curious to understand what was his catalyst. All right. Michelle Early talked about something on her personal page today, which I'm curious if she's going to put it on her website. Today was a significant date in history for her. And it's not something that people would celebrate, so to speak. It was very traumatic. But she freely shared her thoughts about it today. And I just kind of did this when she shared it. And she talked about it. It was something that I didn't know. I knew about the event. I just didn't know when it was. Okay. My catalyst for me was, having my home life become separate. Okay. I went from being married of 12 years to being divorced, and having my life changed. Okay. What's your catalyst? Have you gone through it yet? If so, share it. Talk about it. With all of the billions of people that's living on this earth, I guarantee you're not the only one that's going through something. And what you share could help somebody else. All right? So the catalyst is still part of the first act, okay? But it's its own element. And before I go on to the next thing, Michelle says she needs to make more space on that website. Hey, hop to it. Shout out to you. All right. So when you think about all great stories, right? Star Wars, the Odyssey, okay? You'll have something happen past the catalyst where you get to the next element. Trials and tribulations. Okay, and that's part of the second act. The frustrations, the drama, the obstacles. I just realized I spelled that wrong. Obstacles is what it should say. Why didn't this let me know that was misspelled? Let's bring that back up. Boom, the obstacles. Hey, we quick on the edits over here. Give myself a round of applause. All right. But what are the things that you have to overcome in that second act? That's a part of your story, your frustrations, your obstacles. For me, when I was getting past being depressed, while I make fantastic money, I wasn't managing it well. And everything in life, unfortunately, costs money, right? So for me, it was, where am I going to stay? All right. I got my child support. I've got my debt obligations. Should I file for bankruptcy? What does filing for bankruptcy do to me short term and long term? Okay. Once I got out of my depression, these are things that I had to tackle, that I had to face. All right. Not too many people know this. And I've shared this with a small amount of people. I'm not sure if I said this publicly, but technically, by definition, your boy was homeless for a short period of time. And it was by choice, essentially, because I just didn't have the money to, rent a place. So for a few days, I lived and worked out of my car or McDonald's. And this was during the pandemic when things were, quote unquote, closed. But the McDonald's Wi-Fi was still working. Not too many people know that. Not too many people know that. I've shared that with a small few. Okay. And then I had a 6-month stint where I found a property. I rented that property for the low because it was what I could afford. And how do I be nice about this? The property was so old and so decrepit that the money saved wasn't worth it, and the 6 month nightmare that I had with my landlord was insane. Okay, and there's somebody else that moved in with me. He had just gotten divorced, but like me, he was looking for a place where the price, was affordable for our budget to kind of regroup and get things restructured financially anyway. He didn't last the 6 months. He said, I have to get out of here before something happened with this lady, because our landlord was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. But it was facing those trials and tribulations that I decided I'm not going to be back here again. This ain't happening. All right. I don't want to be in a position where I feel like this ever again. Okay. So the next part is the fourth element that's still part of the second act, and it's the turning point. Michelle early said LEPJ would be so proud of my literary references. Hey, your boy does read. And then one of my previous live streams, I've talked about how my goal in 2023 is to read a different book a month, and that's only 12. If I wanted to be real aggressive, I would read 2 books a month, all right, to get through 24 books. There's a buddy of mine, Michael Sartain. The brother is well-read. He has this group or community called Men of Action. They have a free Discord. But one of the things that he says, if you're going to be a part of the Men of Action, is to read these, I think it's 24 books. 24 books. And he says there's no excuses. I don't care if you work 18-hour days and you have a family to come home to. If you want to turn things around, if you want to hit that turning point, all right, and get through this second act, he just says, leave the excuses behind, read these books, and then when you're ready to take action in your life, I have a blueprint for you. Now, I'm not part of his Men of Action group, as, in my opinion, I don't need it, right? But there are people that do need it and use it, and there's a community of people that are holding each other accountable. I joined the Discord to network and have other accountability partners. I personally reached out to one. Actually, he reached out to me in the Discord when we realized that we lived in the same state, and I make it my mention to intentionally meet with this person, right? Network. One of the things I've talked about prior, build a network of like-minded people that are doing things similar to you. And what am I doing? I'm trying to build my brand. I'm trying to build my network to increase my net worth so that, in 8 years from now, if I want to retire, I can. All right. But that's going to take hard work. It's going to take some sacrifices. It's going to take action, and it's going to take increasing my knowledge, my education level, and my health, essentially, to be able to do all of these things. Okay. So that turning point, that point of no return, is where, typically the protagonist or you can no longer see or do things as they were before. You realize from the trials and tribulations, the things that you were doing, that you're like, man, I don't want to go back there. And if you do, you're an idiot. If you do, you just didn't learn. If you get to that turning point and you pull a Derek Jackson, where you're constantly doing things that people will criticize you for because you haven't learned, that's on you. But I'm going to tell you right now, when I got to my turning point to close the second act, I realized I'm not doing everything the way that I used to, because I don't want to go back to how that life was and how I felt. So for the viewers and listeners out there, okay, think about when you've gone through your trials and tribulations and you got to your turning point. What'd you do about it? How did you feel? What actions and what steps did you take to turn the page to close that second act? All right. And the final part of a good story, which is the third and final act, is the resolution. Okay. And that's the point in which the protagonist succeeds or fails miserably. Like the Mario effect. Let me know if y'all heard the Mario effect too, because I was struggle streaming yesterday on the Real Precious's channel. But like Mario, Mario's goal in the video game was to save the princess. All right. His own life be damned. I'm going to get to Bowser, defeat Bowser, and save the princess. That was his story. Okay. And when he failed, you heard the sound effect. All right. You heard it. I appreciate that. And if you succeeded, you got to the end and you felt like the hero. All right. You as the Mario as the protagonist, so to speak, succeeded with his story. And in the video game, that's where that ended. Well, kind of technically, as it spawned several other games and a whole franchise and things like that. But it started from the original story. Okay. Star Wars has spawned several other franchises and other storytelling points from other supporting characters from the main protagonist. Okay. Real life works the same way, people. It works the same way. So tell me your story. Perry Production Net said, when I got fired from my job of 13 years at Honda, I had more time to travel the world and figure out how to make my side business my main business. And I'm telling y'all, the boy is highly successful at it. He's one of the best out there. Okay. And when you check out his rates reflect how well his work is. He's been doing videos since we were, 16, 17, a long time. And me and him are both 38. I'll just tell his age. But the guy's a professional. The guy's great at what he does. And look, he's now at the point that he can make his side business his main business. And his side business also has allowed him to be able to travel, use his passport, go to these other places to share and tell other people's stories. And his videos are dope. We're going to go down to BlurredCon, July of 2023. Okay. And I can guarantee you, we're going to share some footage and tell our stories of BlurredCon, which is like Black Nerd Con. That's going to be here in DC. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. It's one of my first conventions in a while. I've been to New York Comic Con. That was dope. I've been to several other cons around the DMV area. But to go to BlurredCon, I'm pretty excited about that. All right. Now, Michelle has heard or read Perry Productions' story and said that she loves that. She loves his story. All right. And then he said, after being fired at Honda, it was definitely a life-changing moment for him. Okay. That was his turning point. That was his obstacle. He's a father of 3. I've had him on my Chats with Dads live stream that I do on my channel sometimes. And if you're a father that want to come and chop it up with me, in my link tree, I'm going to put a Calendly invite. That's a way to schedule yourself to come on my live stream. All right. For Chats with Dads. I would absolutely love for you to come on and we'll chop it up with you. Any father out there, any guy that's listening to this that want to share his story, come on. I had somebody from Germany. I think that's the farthest that I've had on my Chats with Dads so far. Everybody else has been here in the United States, which is where I'm currently located. But that's the beauty of being on YouTube, being on Facebook. You can connect with everybody. Being on Twitch, my bad, Spry. All right. Being on Twitter, you can connect with people around the world and share your story. Okay. So getting through that resolution, that third and final act, that's where you come to the point in which you succeed or fail, but your story doesn't end there. Okay. The next story can begin. I think Michelle's written like 3 books. Okay. Mike's written 1. I might dabble in it. Ellie PJ, who Michelle brought up earlier, she's a fiction author and has written several books. I'm trying to find out what they are. they're around like romance, and she's real tight-lipped about the books that she's authored. But I haven't given up. This has been a 3-year journey on trying to find what those books are. All right. I might be wrong, but they're kind of 50 Shades of Grayish. Okay. So, hey, what's your story? Who's writing your story for you? Are you allowing others to write it? Or are you writing it yourself? When you get to where you can autobiography, that ain't a word, but I'm making it a word today. You can autobiography your own life. That sounds like it should be a word. Then that's where you've, I think, turned the page and get into that second close, because then you're in control. And some people tell you, you're not really, there are people that say that you're not really in control of your life. I think you are. I want to say, if you say that other elements or other people are in control of, your life, then you're somebody that lets external circumstances control you, and you're not ready to turn the page. Okay. So author your own life. Write your own story. Don't let nobody else tell you what that story is. And if you're still living and breathing on this earth, you have a story to tell, and you have a story to share with others. That's my live stream for today, people. I'd like to thank Michelle, Perry, Spry, Tarika for pulling up. All right. And leave your story down in the chat. If you're catching this after the live stream, I want you to share your story down in the comment section. I promise I'm going to read it. Somebody else might read it too, and it could inspire them to tell their story. Okay? That's my live stream for today, people. Thanks to everybody that tuned in live, and to those that will catch it following the live stream. Y'all know I always appreciate you. Okay? And on that note, I'm out. Peace.